Water, just give me indication. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome everyone. Inshallah, today we will have a seminar on cognitive AI, artificial intelligence. Our guest tonight will be Mr. Amjad Abdallat, or as he calls himself as AJ. So AJ Abdallat is CEO of Beyond Limits and on advisory board of Caltech Center for Autonomous Systems and Technologies. Uh, as we said, he is the CEO of Beyond Limits, which is the pioneering artificial intelligence engineering company, creating advanced software solutions for the most demanding industries, including energy, utilities, and healthcare. Today's big talk is going to be about healthcare. Beyond Limits, recognized by Frost and Sullivan as 2021 Global Company of the Year. Congratulations to Beyond Limits for this achievement. So Mr. AJ has over 20 years of experience building high-tech startups in the fields of bio-inspired artificial intelligence, reasoning systems, and smart sensors. Prior to Beyond Limits, AJ was co-founder and CEO of several Caltech/Jet Propulsion Laboratory startups, where he raised over $250 million in venture and strategic investments. Mr. AJ holds a Master of Science degree in Engineering from the University of Missouri and the Bachelor of Science from the University of California at Berkeley. Great to have you here, Mr. AJ. We are happy and proud. And then I'll leave the next talk to Dr. and Professor Qutayba Khatatba, who is the Dean of Science and Art Faculty.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أهلا وسهلا. We are very happy and proud to have you with us, Dr. Amjad. On behalf of the President, Professor Saib Khresat, and Deanship Council, all of them send you best regard and wishes. And we are proud and very thankful for your time to participate and also give a talk for our students and our faculty members. And we hope that we will start a new line of cooperation, on a new way of thinking, way of teaching, with the help of you and also with some advice of you to move the education in Jordan into entrepreneurship and creativity and AI, and also to get some help and advices from your experience. You are more than welcome, and we can't wait until we want to hear and learn from you. Thank you very much, and always you are welcome in Jordan. Inshallah, after COVID-19 pandemic, we are very happy and keen to meet you and host you. Thank you.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
So, Mr. AJ, inshallah, you can participate or share your presentation now.
Yes, let me do that. So, Assalamu alaikum. I really wanted to take this opportunity to say I am honored and pleased. I want to thank the university. I want to thank Dr. Yahya. I'm going to thank Professor Taiba for the invitation. I'm really honored. I want to thank the audience for taking the time to listen to the presentation. I'm so excited about this. I've been actually, as Dr. Yahya mentioned in the brief, kind intro, I've been involved in the field of artificial intelligence for the last couple of decades, most of my professional career. And the last few years, I've been actually taking an active role in working, being a Jordanian and a proud Jordanian, taking an active role in promoting AI and working with, Dr. Yahya with Phi Science Institute to really promote AI and see what I can do, and even in a very small role to help promote AI. Dr. Yahya asked me to talk about cognitive AI. So what I'd like to do is share that with you. Please, let's make this informal. And I'm happy to take any questions. So feel free to do so. I'll run through my presentation to allow us time to have that, interactive dialogue. So with that, let me share my screen.
We're losing your voice.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So today's presentation, what I wanted to talk about an approach to AI that we call cognitive AI, or a hybrid or AI, and it's really unified approach to artificial intelligence. But I thought before I explain that, perhaps if you indulge me, I want to talk a little bit about the past, the present, where we are in terms of the state of artificial intelligence and the future of AI, and kind of share with you my own experience and the experience of Beyond Limits as a leading company in this field. So I think AI, the term AI was coined actually in 1956. It was not invented in 1956. There were a lot of research about artificial intelligence, machine intelligence, and statistical intelligence prior to that. But in 1956, something happened. The leading researchers in the field got together at Dartmouth College, individuals like John McCarthy of MIT. John McCarthy was actually responsible for coining the term artificial intelligence. Prior to 1956, that term was not used. And the reason he used that is to differentiate artificial intelligence from natural intelligence associated with intelligence of humans and animals. Okay, so officially the term was created in 1956. There was a lot of excitement. A lot of universities wanted to invest in research. They had a lot of expectation. At the time they thought by the 70s, we're gonna have smart, intelligent robots. The human race was gonna just retire and enjoy life. And we're gonna rely on machines to do everything for us. Well, they really did not foresee and understand the challenges to get to that point. But nonetheless, it was an important milestone. So today, where AI stands, it's a term I called narrow AI. We have actually came a long way. Today, we can do a lot of great things that exceed human intelligence, but in very narrow, specific field. So for example, like radiology, today machines can basically read X-rays better than humans. They exceed that level of intelligence. But if you ask it a different question, it's going to be limited. So this is what we call narrow AI, and that's really the past of AI. It's very important. It's very significant. It allowed us to actually solve very specific problem, but very focused and narrow problem. Well, what we stand today, companies like Beyond Limits. Can you please mute the line and
look at
so
this.
Today, we Beyond Limits promoting a unified approach to AI called cognitive AI, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. And cognitive AI, again, as I mentioned, it's a hybrid approach that unifies a data-driven machine learning and deep learning technique. I mentioned the term artificial intelligence was coined in 1956. Machine learning was invented by Samuel Arthur in 1959. It's been around for decades. The problem was we really didn't have two important elements. We did not generate data. We were not a digital world yet, okay? And the other important element, the computing infrastructure was not mature enough. We didn't get to that point until 4 decades later. But we were fortunate. We were blessed. We had researchers that believed in this concept. They continue to support this research. Individuals like Professor Jeffrey Hinton out of the University of Toronto, Leon Cohn from Columbia, who's currently with Facebook, they believed eventually the compute infrastructure and the data will get us there to fully take advantage of that, and we got to that point. That's where the current state of the art is, the unified approach that combines both the data-driven machine learning, deep learning techniques with what we call symbolic AI that allow us to codify human engineering and human knowledge. Well, what is the future? I speak at a lot of conferences and people ask me, what is the future? The future is something we call artificial general intelligence or strong AI. This is where the prediction is we actually can have systems, AI systems that can exceed human intelligence. I can here tell you, for somebody who's been practicing AI for a couple of decades, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. It's still gonna take some time to get there. What we need is to basically wide deployment of cognitive AI and machine learning and deep learning to refine the technology to really reach what I call emotional intelligence and reasoning. We're still not there yet, but we're making significant strides. Also, what we need to get to artificial general intelligence or strong AI, we need quantum computing. The current state of the art of computing is not sufficient. All these supercomputers, GPUs from NVIDIA, they're phenomenal, but will not get us to strong AI or general artificial intelligence. If you ask the experts in the world, their prediction that we will get there by the year 2040, I happen, in my humble opinion, to think we're actually gonna get there sooner than that, just simply because we are making significant strides both on the cognitive AI side, and also we're making significant stride on the quantum computing infrastructure. So for those who are basically thinking about the movie Terminator and Skynet, and if computers and machines are gonna take the world, that's still in science fiction and movies. You can sleep at night. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. Yeah. Let me talk a little bit, drill down on what is cognitive AI. Okay, so I talked a bit that is really a unified approach. I'd like to think of artificial intelligence. Today, artificial intelligence is really synonymous with a very important layer of AI we call machine learning and deep learning. And by the way, very phenomenal capability, but it's only one layer of the full stack. And I want to differentiate that. It's not the same definition of software stack, the full range, you know. So we've created something we call the pyramids of machine intelligence. And if you look at the bottom of that pyramid, it starts with statistical analysis, you know, machine statistics. And we have hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of open software programs out there that we use on an everyday basis. So remember when I mentioned one of the biggest problems that was facing AI in the last century was the lack of data. Now with mobile, with the maturity of mobile, with the advent of social media, all of a sudden we were generating a huge amount of data. You know, We have lots of data as universities, as government agencies, as corporations, as private citizens and consumers and individuals. We're generating a lot of amount of data. We wanted to see what is important out of that data. And that's where the data analytics and the statistical analytics, and if you remember, there was a buzzword that we used, big data. Big data was really the concept of how I can get important information and differentiate that from non-important information out of my data. So we got there. Then somebody said, well, that's great. That's wonderful. But I really want to basically step up the game, take it to the next level. Can we, out of that relevant information, extract features, relevant features, so I can basically get directly to my solution? And that's where machine learning and deep learning played a phenomenal role. Google, led by Professor Hinton, did a wonderful job, wonderful job. So we were able to recognize features. We were able to allow the machine, using machine learning techniques and deep learning techniques, to basically go through tremendous amount of data and basically extract that features. I'm sure all of you heard the example where we fed the computer system millions of images of a cat or a dog, and the system was able to basically, so if you show it a picture of a cat and a dog, it identified it, and identified it very accurately. But by the way, that machine itself didn't know what it recognized. It recognized that's what you're looking for. So very step in the right direction. We made tremendous progress with machine learning, deep learning. We were able to solve a lot of problems, but there were still some missing, okay? The problem with machine learning and deep learning, although it's a phenomenal capability, think of it as a way you're really predicting the future, but based on the past experience. So I can feed my AI system, the machine, a lot of data from the past and ask that AI system to predict the future. And with machine learning and deep learning advancement, now we can do it at a high degree of accuracy very quickly. Tremendous progress. The issue we run into is, what if you don't have that data? Or what if you have gaps in the data? Or what if a piece of the data is corrupted? What do? Well, the AI system then said, I have a problem. I got to stop. You need to fix that. You either need to bring me that relevant data or else I cannot continue. This is where the other side of the unified approach, the hybrid AI, which we call the symbolic side, comes into a play. This is an approach that NASA and the unmanned space program adopted. So take, for example, when we send a spacecraft to Mars, it's a journey of 500 million miles. It takes 6 months to get to Mars, okay? The data takes anywhere between 15 minutes to 45 minutes to get back to Earth. So we can identify, because we've been looking at our solar system, we have collected a lot of data and images. So for example, we recognize what a volcano, a dormant volcano, what a mountain, what a crater looks on Mars, what a storm looks on Jupiter, because we've been collecting images and data for that. So that is very useful for our data-driven approach. But in space, sometimes we run into phenomena that we haven't seen before. So what do? Machine learning cannot help in that area. That's where the other side of AI system, what we call symbolic AI, comes into equation. And the way it works is exactly how we train humans. If I want to train a student to become a doctor, I send them to a medical school. They'll learn from textbook. They'll learn from professors. They'll learn from interaction with other students and other professors. Then they learn through the internship program, through practice. And that's exactly how symbolic AI works, is we're teaching the system, based on physics-based model, first principles, computational fluid dynamics, chemistry, pieces of wisdom, things that we've learned, from the past. And this is why unified approach is the direction we're taking, is the right approach. Let me be clear about it. I want to make sure one element is not important than the other element. We need them all. We need them to complement each other. I'm proud to say that because of the unmanned space program, we've been, Beyond Limits has been championing this approach to the AI, and it's been working very, very well. If I may, I just want to give a specific, actually, let me continue and I'll use that example. Dr. Yahya, are we okay? Any questions? Should we continue?
I have, so far we're collecting 7 questions.
Okay, so should I wait right now or continue until we?
Let's continue.
Okay.
Let's continue, and then we will gather everything together.
Awesome, great. So what is important about cognitive AI, that hybrid approach of basically a data-driven machine learning, deep learning techniques, and the symbolic AI, which is really encoding human knowledge, human engineering and expertise into the system? Well, now AI is evolving. Now we have complex problems in healthcare, in energy, in finance, in agriculture, in many, many industries. Explainability is important. So that's one really important element of cognitive AI, which is I really want to understand how we got to the answer. If you go purely based on a numeric-based machine learning, deep learning technique, it's something that we refer to as a black box implementation. And what I mean by a black box implementation is I'm going to get an answer. The answer is going to be very accurate. It's going to be the correct answer, but don't ask me how I got to the answer. I don't know. I just got it because you fed me a lot of data. I was able to extract the right features and give you the right features, which happens to be the right answer. But I don't know what I got you. Don't ask me. Well, in high value sectors, in healthcare, that's not acceptable. In energy, that's not acceptable. We at NASA cannot send a multi-billion-dollar spacecraft into space, into Mars, and lose it. What are you going to tell the taxpayers? Oh, oops, I made a mistake. You have to explain how you got your answer. And this is what cognitive AI or hybrid AI, the unified AI brings you. Bring you that explainability factor. So you can go back and say, okay, maybe I made a mistake, but this is what I did. And now I understand how I got to my answer. And another important element in that explainability is the ability to basically democratize what we call knowledge sharing. Okay. So when you infuse human knowledge, if now I'm going to take, mashallah, Dr. Yahya with APL and say, he's an expert on autonomous systems, I'm going to allow everybody in the university, I'm going to allow everybody in the APL lab to basically leverage that experience. I can do it with cognitive AI. I can sit down with Dr. Yahya and codify a lot of that knowledge, a lot of that experience. You can't do that with a data-driven approach. So that is important. And what I did by that, now I can scale Dr. Yahya's expertise and knowledge across the lab, across the enterprise. This is really important. I want to use just one example we use with a large energy company. They deal with what we call unconventional assets. So they operate in deep water, Gulf of Mexico. When you operate in deep waters, you're drilling wells at a cost of hundreds of millions of dollars. So what you're doing is when you drill these wells, you're applying pressure, you're causing rocks to move, you're causing rocks to fragment. And as a result, there's a phenomena called sanding. Sanding, when rocks fragment or move, you create sanding. Well, the problem is, when you get to a point, what we call extreme sanding, it can destroy the asset. It will destroy your investment. So it is very important to say, how can I recognize that extreme sanding situation before it happens so you can save your asset? So that problem was presented to us at a cognitive AI company and was presented to other AI companies that were purely machine learning or a data-driven approach. And when we sat down with this company, we've asked, can you supply us with the data so we can take a look at it? Just give us and the other companies the same thing. They literally, what they did is they gave us a stack of emails between command and control and the folks in the field. That was the extent of it. It was actually unstructured data with emails. Every single machine learning, deep learning, only techniques company, they said, well, you know what? Get real. When you get enough data, come talk to us. This is not data. Well, with cognitive AI, we said, okay, that's fine. You don't have the data. Let's build a system purely based on codifying the engineering knowledge. So we sat with their experts who basically over 4 decades, by going to all the fields, all the wells out there, was able to develop a very accurate gut feeling about when to predict an extreme sanding situation. I'm using this example because you could not solve this problem by a data-driven approach. So we were able to do it with the symbolic side of AI. But once we codified that knowledge, we collected a lot of data from the acoustic sensors, from environmental sensors. So this is the beauty about cognitive AI, is basically combining the data-driven, if you have the data, which is very important, but also the human knowledge. I always say, the human is still very relevant. People ask me, I speak at a lot of conferences, ultimately machines gonna replace us. We are not replaceable, ladies and gentlemen. We're not replaceable, okay? We are a very important element in the future of AI. Also, I talked a little bit about the explainability. I talked about the audit trail. So now I can go and look at every step in the process and understand in a very clear English-like or Arabic-like or Persian-like language at an NLP level, what happened? Okay, why did I get to this decision? What happened there? So with cognitive AI, we basically leave what we call these cognitive traits that allow you to go back and interactively as a user, basically said, how did I get the answer? Okay, now I see it. I see it through that cognitive trace or that audit trail. Well, that is important because now as a human, I can trust the system. Before I was asked to trust the system, in a black box, I got you an accurate answer, but don't ask me how I got, I don't know what I got you, but it's an accurate answer. Just trust me. That's not good enough, okay? With cognitive AI, the end user now can say, okay, I have an explanation, I have an audit trail. This is eventually gonna cause people to trust the system. We need that. Without trust, we're never gonna be able to embrace AI. Without trust, we're never gonna be able to deploy AI at a massive scale. This is very, very important. And lastly, one really key advantage of cognitive AI is, again, as I mentioned, now we can basically allow systems to solve problems if you have data or if you have missing data. So you can't say, well, sorry, I'm not going to be able to, you don't have sufficient data. Also, when you operate in a complex environment, like let's say space or energy, you're operating in the desert or in underwater, in the ocean, Gulf of Mexico, North Sea, extreme conditions. You're never gonna get very pristine data, clean data. You're gonna get gaps in the data. You're gonna have lack of coverage in the data. So it is very important for the system to continue to operate with missing, insufficient, or misleading data. And this is what cognitive AI can do. And the last thing that I'd like to address is I came from the aerospace industry. And in the aerospace industry, which is similar to a lot of industries like healthcare, energy, fintech, we have experts that spent decades. And in energy, for example, today, a lot of these experts are approaching retirement age. And the problem is, once they retire, this is not digital, ladies and gentlemen. You know, you want to lose that expertise. You know, I want to be able to capture and codify the valuable expertise of Dr. Yahya, Professor Qutay. It's important. I want to capture that before they, retire. And then I want to share that with the younger generation, with the younger engineers. And that's what we call closing the knowledge gap, reducing our risk, because I'm now bringing fresh blood, fresh ideas, but that is complemented by taking advantage of codifying expertise from people who've been in the field for decades. That combination is very, very powerful, and that's what cognitive AI can do for you. I think with that, I want to thank you for your time, and perhaps Dr. Yahya, we can open it now for questions or comments.
Well, thank you so much for this, Mr. AJ. It was great, and I've been listening to your lectures from the time that I met you and did see, and I'm a big fan of Beyond Limits. So that's how I will run the questions. First, I will take the questions from doctors who joined us, and then after that, from the participants, either here or on YouTube channel. So I know Dr. Mutawakkil is here, Dr. Qais is here, and Dr. Fahd joined us. So if any of you have any question to Mr. AJ, then let's have it.
تسمح لي دكتور
تفضل دكتور قتيبة.
Thank you very much, Professor Amjad. We are very happy, very nice talk. I would like to ask you in general, in AI, is there any strategic way of thinking globally in developing AI? Do you start, for example, from labs, virtual labs that uses AI, like Labstar virtual labs? Do you start or using the data on the, is there any strategic level of developing the AI until you reach the highest level? For example, in the universities, we can start, for example, we started to use Labstar virtual lab or the 3D virtual labs. It's limited to sometimes when we say that sometimes we expect the machines will control the world. I agree with you. We are not able to develop something that really reflect what's in the labs. If we want to do experiments or go to or teach our students in anatomy or biochemistry and other kind of things. So I expect sometimes it's very important to test our programs or our algorithms from this point of view, to trust the algorithms or develop the technology or machines before we apply it and allow to take a decision. This is the first question. The next question, I don't know. Do you want me to ask the second question or?
Sure. No. I mean, that's a great first question.
أنا ممكن أقاطعكم. أول شيء نشكر الدكتور أمجد على المحاضرة القيمة. ممكن نطعم شوية عربي مشان الطلاب. شوية عربي نستخدم لأنه طلاب سنة أولى كلهم. شو رأيك دكتور يحيى؟ طبعا نشكرك على التنظيم الرائع. بالمناسبة الدكتور أمجد أنت عسمي على يعني رحمة والدي وابني أمجد. فهذا الاسم عزيز علي كثير.
دكتور أمجد يلا بدي أسأل السؤال الثاني بالعربي حتى
أيوة.
طيب دكتور في عندنا احنا يعني بشكل عام تناقشنا بهذا الموضوع كثير وحتى مع الزملاء بالتكنولوجيا الحاسوب. في مدرستين بالعالم، مدرسة بتحبذ انه احنا ندمج الاي اي خلال في تدريس المساقات، ونطلب من طلابنا من جميع المراحل انه من المدرسة لغاية الجامعة يتعلم بايثون، يتعلم لغات برمجة مشان نطور تفكيره بالاي اي. وفي مدرسة ثانية او ناس ثانيين انه يعني different schools انه they advise انه لا انت you have to be good بالتخصص تبعك واترك الاي اي لجماعه الاي اي، انت قول لهم بس شو بدك هم بيعملوا، فانت you don't have to worry about يعني developing the skills of the students. So احنا يعني we are confused sometimes خلينا نحكي to take decisions on this, but even though انه sometimes انه بالمدارس بلشوا انه بدهم they want to add المنهج جديد يعلم الطلاب الاي اي، يعني احنا ممكن نعلمهم برمجه بس انت مع اي مدرسه من خبرتك العمليه، واحنا شاكرين لك وفخورين فيك مره ثانيه. ويعني طلابنا الاعزاء احنا بنحكي مع يعني رجل من رجالات الاردن ونفخر فيهم في العمل.
شكرا. انا بشكرك كثير. سؤالك الاول كان سؤال رائع. انا كنت اتكلم عن the different levels of AI and I talked about أنا كنت بحكي عن الماضي والحاضر والمستقبل. في شيء مهم جدا لازم نعرفه. اليوم إحنا لما we implement AI it's implemented بطريقة محدودة. Okay, so it's solving قاعدة بتحل بس مشكلة محدودة. Okay. I think the future of AI is a vision اللي عمله one of the grandfathers of AI, Professor Marvin Minsky. Marvin Minsky had the vision that of something called hive mind intelligence. Hive mind intelligence يمكن الدكتور يحيى والدكتور قضاي كانوا بيساعدوني بترجمها للعربي. Hive mind intelligence إنه نخلي ال AI system يحكوا مع بعض. Networked AI. Okay. You know, one AI قاعد بيحل مشكلة هيك, but they can talk يحكوا مع another AI agent بيحل مشكلة تانية. That hive mind, that network intelligence is going to really advance the level of AI. So, Professor Qutaiba, لما حكيت لي, I mean, the best thing that can happen today is if your university, your lab can work on some specific research, can basically collaborate, you know, يشتغلوا مع Caltech, يشتغلوا مع MIT, you know, their AI agent can talk to your AI agent. You know, that's where we're going to take AI to the, you know, to the next level. So hive mind intelligence, the connectivity, talking to different systems, بتخلينا extract features that we cannot extract by using specific agents. So I really would like to encourage that, and I've been a vocal voice in promoting the hive mind, intelligence. Let me just pause here for a second, see if I address it, or is there any follow-up? And maybe انتوا دكتور يحب تساعدوني ترجمة الhive mind intelligence.
ايش دكتور هاي؟
Did we lose Dr. Yahya?
Momentarily, yes, momentarily.
Okay.
دكتور
يحيى مشان التطعيم باللغه العربيه انا بحتاج لمساعده، انا بعتذر.
طيب ماشي.
بحتاج لمساعده.
المشكله الشباب والصبايا عم بيبعثوا اسئله بس بالانجليزي عادي، شو اعمل لك؟ طيب احد من الدكاتره عنده اسئله اخرى؟
هذا كان سؤالي على انت ذكرت الترمينيتر، بس هذا الاشي مش بعيد كخيال علمي. احنا كل شيء كان خيال علمي، زي رحلة ذا مون، في القصص اللي كنا نسمعها. يعني انا بديش احكي من هلا ال 2030 شو بنتوقع يكون الوضع؟
انا برايي ب 2030 انا حكيت لك the past was narrow AI. The present is cognitive AI. Now we can solve. هلا بنقدر نحل مشاكل معقدة جدا.
نعم.
And the future is artificial general intelligence. The future is we can get AI system يحلوا مش بس مشكلة. You can ask the AI system not just one specific narrow task, but a lot of tasks, just like a human being. أنا هلا يعني دكتور يحيى, you can ask Dr. Yahya, he's an expert in autonomous systems. If you ask him maybe in a different field, because the human mind operates, he has not a deep level of knowledge, but he still can address it. إحنا هيك ما شاء الله we بنفكر كhuman beings. عرفت كيف؟ بس دكتور قيس, I believe إنه هذا راح يصير وما راح يكون خيال علمي, إن شاء الله راح يصير بوقت أقصر من المتوقع عليه, لأنه إحنا قاعدين نعمل تقدم رائع جدا في الكوانتم كومبيوتينج وفي الكوجنيتيف كومبيوتينج.
أنا بحكي لطلابي خلال ال10 سنين, يعني 20-30 إن ربنا أحيانا لهذاك التاريخ, القفزة اللي راح تصير بجوز قد القفزة من 1800 أو من فجر التاريخ للآن.
I agree. أنا معك. عرفت كيف؟ I mean, إذا هلا أنت بتتصور the human knowledge, الخبرة اللي إحنا كhuman race كبشرية لحد الثورة الصناعية اتقدمت, يعني صارت تتقدم تتضاعف كل 100 سنة.
نعم.
من 1900 من الثورة الصناعية للثورة اللي بنسميها احنا الكمبيوتر ريفولوشن.
تكنولوجية.
تكنولوجية اتقدمت خلال 50 سنة. Advancement في semiconductor industry in AI algorithms, we were able now to do it من 100 ل 50 لكل سنتين. Now in the future, Dr. Qais, we're talking about getting to a point راح نوصل مستوى إنه إحنا كبشرية we're gonna double our knowledge, double it, increase it مرتين every 12 hours. Imagine what we can do every 12 hours. We're gonna نضاعف everything we know as a بشرية, as a human race. I mean, it's amazing. I feel so envious of the younger generation out there. I've been blessed. I saw a lot of things. As a child, I saw man walk on the moon. I saw us send rovers to Mars, and I got the chance to work on that. We saw a lot of fantastic things. But I got to tell you, I envy the younger generation. What they're going to see in the next 10 years is unbelievable.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Qais. Every time I see you, AJ, talking, like goosebumps goes into my skin. It's just so much energy in you, mashallah.
Thank you.
And that's what I need from you to give a quick talk to our young generation who are in entrepreneurship and innovation course. Right now, they don't see a big picture of what they do in entrepreneurship course. But that's why we try to bring قامات علمية ما شاء الله أمثالكم عشان بس يعني يعطوا دفعة للطلاب إنه yes, the entrepreneurship and innovation is required for the younger generation and for the future generation as well to continue. And you came from entrepreneurship background and you were very successful in getting $250 million venture capital from NASA, a spin-off company. So talk about that experience to generation that is hearing you right now.
Thank you. No, I'm happy. I'm happy to do that. أنا فخور إني أنا أردني. إحنا ك طلاب أردنية فلسطينية طلاب عرب. We have the spirit of entrepreneurship. هاي الريادة بتمشي في دمنا. This is important. That was إشي كان مهم إلي. You know, when I graduated as an engineer, I was blessed to work مع the وكالة الفضاء الأمريكية. But I always had the spirit of I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I got that opportunity. I was fortunate. Caltech president gave me that opportunity, and I took advantage of it. أنا كنت مهندس. You know, I didn't know anything about running a company, but you can learn. You know, I remember my first job. I got, you know, I bought a book. I still remember it was like, you know, $15. CEO for Dummies, you know, how to become a CEO. And the first thing I learned is first thing I learned, the most valuable lesson is when they gave me my first job, مجلس الإدارة, when they basically said, مبروك, راح نحطك أنت رئيس الشركة, كل إشي تمام, you know. So I mean, I felt like, great, you know, everything is تمام. They told me, don't worry about things. So first experience learned is don't listen to the مجلس الإدارة, you know. So just go with your, you know, with your gut feeling. No, but truly, it was a great experience. اللي بشجعه لكل طلاب الهندسة. أعتقد إنه دكتور يحيى معظم الطلاب هنا طلاب علميين, correct?
الجامعة كلها علمية بس هي من جميع المجالات.
No, I was going to say this is important. I am one that believe إذا هناك في طلاب من الأدبي, you still can play a role in the AI revolution.
Yes.
Don't feel like, oh my God, I wish I went into the نظام علمي. Now, let's be realistic. You know, mathematics is important if you want to be a programmer, if you're going to be a data scientist. But AI is everywhere. We need people who understand, you know, the emotional side of AI. We need artists. We need linguistics. We need people who understand history and the impact of history. AI is for everyone. AI is for everyone. So I think, but what I would encourage you, that أنت كنت طالب علمي and you want to basically be an entrepreneur, also try to understand the other side, understand how to read financial statements, and understand how to, you know, try to play outside of your comfort zone. Try to be around individual, build your skill sets. You know, those kind of skill sets will be important to you. But I'm biased. I happen to think a CEO that comes from a technical, forgive me, طلاب الأدبيين, a CEO that comes from a engineering background is a big plus.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So what we give them, الأشياء اللي بنعطيها في الكورس, يعني it varies from idea sketchpad, ل critique pad, ل BMC, ل financial statement, ل business plan, marketing plan. feasibility analysis. وآخر شيء يعني بيعملوا presentation. This is what they need to know for them to be pioneers in entrepreneurship, and for asking as well professionally for grants or funded projects. And we try to even, strengthen the point that you're not young for this. And you need to learn this in your early stages of your education, so you can carry it on. And probably, who knows? The opportunity comes left and right. And the funding agency here in Jordan, there are so many. So why not benefiting from the course of entrepreneurship and innovation in getting funded? Mr. AD, I have a question. What is the problem that leads to losing, and this is from Izild, question to Dr. AJ, what is the problem that leads to losing control of rockets, such as what happened with Chinese rockets? Was it programming error, a mistake in writing code responsible for control, for example?
I am not, and I'm مش عارف the specific example, but let me just speak in general. When you're operating in space, it's very high risk business. Okay, there are a lot of things that can go wrong, and this is why explainability, explainable AI, trying to really understand what happened. I can tell you from my own experience, this could be as simple as something really silly as, for example, excuse me, we lost a spacecraft. It's called the Mars Observer. And if you, the Mars Observer, what happened is we had two teams, one located in California and one was located in the UK system. The folks in California were working on the British on the British system. The folks in the UK were working on the metric systems and measurements. Nobody bothered to say, when we combine both systems, we need to make sure that we convert from one unit to another unit. I know it sounds silly right now, but as a result, we've lost a multi-billion-dollar program. Okay, so it could be a mechanical reason. It could be a reason I just explained in terms of at a system level. Space, we've mastered a lot of things, but it's still a dynamic environment.
I have a question from Diana. Thank you. For terms we don't have answer for it, like the theories of dark matter, string theories, example, for etc.
Dr. Yahya, you froze on me. I apologize. I'm going to ask you to repeat the question if you don't mind.
And new math equations based on learn the past. I did?
Yeah, you froze on me, or I froze on you.
دكتور يحيى عند الكل كان frozen. Yes.
Yeah, can you repeat it?
Well, let me do this again. I would like to ask based
اعتقد دكتور يحيى معنا ولا في مشكله؟
الو
You froze.
سامعيني؟ سامعيني هلا؟
هلا سامعين.
ما الانترنت انتربشن هاي بدها اي اي لحالها. طيب, the question is based on AI abilities to learn, can AI learn whole science like physics, astronomy, or math, and making a whole new innovative solution for terms we don't have an answer for it, like theories of dark matter, etc.? or creating a new math equation based on learning the past known science?
A great question. Absolutely. This is what I love about cognitive AI is we're not just teaching the systems based on data. I mentioned to you, with NASA, we've created a domain expertise for a lot of the missions, and it includes, again, as I mentioned, first principles, physics models, computational fluid dynamics. So absolutely, you can teach it that. And the beauty about this, and this is where I mentioned it just previously, is imagine now we can create these AI systems that can, be expert in physics and one expert in biology and one expert in chemistry. And if they are networked, imagine what this cross discipline is going to allow us to discover new discoveries. So this is a very exciting field that allowing these disparate AI systems with unique expertise to basically talk to each other. Great question. I really think this is when we talked about doubling the human knowledge. This is how we're going to achieve this, by doing exactly this.
Nice. I have one from Lama Kharabshe. What about the dangers of completely relying on AI to justify and having machines to interpret what's inside the human mind? So what are the dangers of that?
I happen, again, to believe, I think that's another great question. We need the human in the loop. This is where I see the future of AI. It's the combination of human knowledge and machine intelligence. It is important to have the explainability. It is important to have the audit trail, because quite frankly, we may have built in unbiased, it may be not intentional, unbiased in the machine algorithms. I'm going to give you an example. In New York, the New York Times did a study. They found that machine algorithms can identify human beings who have البشرة البيضاء 85%، اللي بشرته السوداء 50%. They didn't understand why. This is a human and this is a human. Why I have more accurate results with الhuman with بشرة بيضاء versus the بشرة السوداء. And the reason for that is they discovered that most of the AI data scientists that created the algorithms كانوا بشرة بيضاء. So there was unbiased, there was unintentional. It was not intentional. It was unintentional. This is why it's important that humans should be in the loop. I agree. We cannot rely on machines to make decisions. In the US, for example, right now, we're allowing AI systems to, because our court system is so crowded. Judges right now don't have the time or the bandwidth to make decisions. So we let AI systems make decisions that judges make. I want to make sure that if I'm basically at the receiving end of that decision, I want to make sure that the AI system can explain why it reached that decision and show me how it got to that decision. The human being must be in the loop.
دكتور يحيى، تسمح لي بس ارجع للسؤال الثاني اذا الدكتور ما عنده مانع اذا سمحت.
تفضل.
دكتور، يعني I don't know about the second question. I asked, do you advise us to insert and teach students in all levels, from schools to university, AI in some different levels, or do you think we should keep it as a special subject with the faculty of IT in general, as an advice for us to? Sometimes we are in a committees for developing some kind of projects or teaching. What's your advice in this regard?
So let me start by saying that every human being who is using a phone, who is going to an ATM, who's doing online transaction, whether you know it or not, you're using AI, you know, one form of AI or another. So AI is everywhere, okay? You may not be aware of it. It's everywhere. It's around us, you know. Our kids, our parents, they're using AI. I think it is important that people should be aware of their surrounding environment for good reasons and not so good reasons, you know. I mean, there's also a dark side, you know, to AI that people need to understand, you know, about. I'm mentioning this, not dodging your question. I want to get to your question. So we're getting to an environment where AI is all around us. We're using AI. We may not be aware of it. I think the more we know about it, the more we know about what we're using. And by the way, I'm not suggesting that they should know Python or they should know, you know, I'm not suggesting that at all. But they should have at least a level of awareness, okay? When I am doing this on my smartphone, I'm actually, I'm using algorithms, okay? There are algorithms that may be invoking privacy issues, okay, that I need to be aware of. So I think it is important to educate our kids, everybody from a younger age, be aware of the AI around you. I think that's one thing, okay? I happen to be biased just because I like AI. I've been in AI all my professional career. I think the more you know about this, the future is AI, okay? I mean, AI is going to be used in everything, okay? It is going to help you. So if you are, for example, a student that's saying, you know, what is my career? If you're إذا كنت مهندس ولا دكتور or a business guy, the more you know about AI, it's going to help you in your career. This is a positive thing. If you also indulge me, I want to follow up one more step. Dr. Qutaiba, I like what you said. I like what Dr. Yahya said, that we are teaching our engineers, you know, feasibility studies, understanding financial statements. I think that is beautiful. That is awesome, okay? But I also would suggest and advise, Dr. Qutaiba, is think about creating an entrepreneurial program, okay, to teach engineers, data scientists, programmers. I honestly think that would be very important, okay? I really think it's going to help significantly. If I may just quickly, the top 4 producers of intellectual property in the US are 4 universities: MIT, Stanford, Caltech, my university, University of California, Berkeley, my university. I got 2 out of the 4, okay? But if one common element there, they all promote entrepreneurial programs. That's why at MIT, almost every PhD student has a company on the side. It is impressive, the level of technology commercialization. I strongly suggest creating an entrepreneurial program. I think we're going to see phenomenal results.
إن شاء الله إذا بتكون معنا on board يعني we will do that.
Doctor, يعني إحنا we started from 2016 teaching this course for all students, medicine, all the students in the university has to take this course. Now from September, all the universities in Jordan adopt this course. They will teach all the students with the same syllabus, this. And what you are suggesting about developing a program, we are working on this, you know, and we are discussing also this, you know, because there is in Harvard a nice program in entrepreneurship and innovation, but we are, you know, have to get some official approvals. And as Dr. Yahya, also with your advice and help, also we can reach very nice steps.
I'm happy to help. Absolutely happy to help.
Thank you.
طيب ناخذ سؤال برضو كمان من دلال. دلال تسأل how can we get more creative in AI as individuals who are not really specialized in that field? I think more questions like that.
I am so impressed with the type of questions I'm getting. I mean, I give a lot of presentations and I give a lot of speeches. I am really impressed with Dalal. That is an awesome question. You know, it goes back to, again, AI now, everyone. I truly believe that you're going to see, remember I mentioned, if we're going to get to super intelligence, if we're going to get to strong AI, if we're going to get to artificial general intelligence, we need to advance cognitive reasoning, machine learning, deep learning techniques to refine the technology to basically get to emotional intelligence and reasoning. That emotional intelligence رح تيجي منكم يا أدبيين, you know, من الفرع الأدبي, you know, it is for everyone. It is for everyone. AI is not for the engineers. AI is for everyone, and I have been a big, proponent of that. In fact, one thing I've been pleasantly surprised with is the advancement, you know, in sentiment analysis, the advancement in emotional intelligence, and for that, I need psychologists. I need, I need different skill set than the engineers and the math experts. So it's a global program, and I think that's the only way we're going to get to super intelligence.
Nice. Question from Rozan Badr. ما هي توقعاتك دكتور لل AI في المستقبل القريب على مستوى البلدان العربية؟
I'm very pleased. I had some, alhamdulillah, you know, we as a Beyond Limits, I mean, there is an opportunity. It's important, في فرصة هون. It's important to communicate to the students out there. One, you're going to be very relevant. So today, if we look at the region, our region, في المنطقة, okay, if you were, example, like a company like Aramco. Aramco is a giant company. And I have a contract with Aramco, by the way, okay? Aramco will not allow their data to leave the country. In fact, they will not allow their data to leave their facility, okay? So that's an advantage. That's an advantage for the region, because now, for me as a CEO of an AI company, you know, I need to work with the local talent. You know, my data scientists cannot do the algorithms testing and development from California. I have to have data scientists and data engineers on the ground here in the region. So what we're doing as a Beyond Limits company, we are investing, we're opening offices in the region, we're recruiting talent. I've just hired my chief data scientist in the region, who happens to be Jordanian. It tells you what I think about Jordanian talent, okay? And we also have Egyptians and, you know, and others. So I just want to, you know, we're not biased, you know. But this is going to be very important. This is going to be advantage. You're gonna see a phenomenal growth, phenomenal opportunity, because to do projects for the local economy, the local companies, I got to have data scientists, AI engineers, software engineers, AI experts in the region. And this is why we're looking to the region to hire, train, educate, utilize. أنا شايف فرصة كبيرة كثير كثير في المنطقة.
إن شاء الله. دكتور باسل معنا. دكتور باسل، في عندك سؤال أكيد. كيف حالك دكتور باسل؟
السلام عليكم. لا والله أنا يعني كثير I am enjoying the whole class, the whole lecture. يعني شكرا دكتور. يعني I'm impressed وهيك I'm trying to بحاول استوعب المحاضرة لأنه this is really very interesting. الله يعطيك العافية والله يجزيك الخير وشكرا لكم على ترتيب المحاضرة. I'm trying to find something to ask about. I'm a little bit feeling awkward this moment. This is beyond my expectation.
I have you a question, Dr. Basir, if you don't mind to ask.
Go ahead, ask me.
Well, the question is, where is that? It's about critical decision making, whether it's in making operations, or if you are in the battlefield, or if you are in a very critical situation like monitoring flying towers. Would AI be helpful or assistive, or can take control of the whole field?
Dr. Basil, very good question. So I mentioned before that it is important to keep AI in the loop. But I also want to say there are situations, extreme situations, where a human cannot be in the loop. I can't have a human on Mars right now. Just can't, okay? We can't have humans in very dangerous situations. So there are scenarios where we really need to have AI make that decision. So I want to give you one example. Today at NASA, you know, our spacecrafts are empowered. We give them a certain task. This is your goal. When you go to Mars, we want you to take a picture of this. We want you to do an experiment on this. But guess what? We've also told them, by the way, if you see something interesting, because we know a lot, but there's a lot we don't know. So if you see something more interesting, guess what? Forget what I told you. Pursue it on your own. I mean, this is exactly how we build these spacecrafts. They're authorized. They have the mandate. They are empowered. You know what? You told me to sample the Martian atmosphere looking for water vapor. But guess what? I saw something moving. That is really interesting. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to focus on what I saw, because that might be very important. And when I'm done with this, I'm going to go back and do my original task. No one has been able to do that. We did that at NASA. And this is where AI is evolving. So I gave you one scenario where we have to rely on machines to make that in decisions. I'm going to give you another completely different example. يا سمح الله إذا أنا رحت على مستشفى بدي أعمل عملية. Guess what? I want a human surgeon. Not only I want a human surgeon, I want a human surgeon assisted by 20 AI agents. I want the combination. If you offered me one or another, I'm not going to accept them. I want both. I want that human to ultimately make the decision, but I want him to be supported by AI agents to give him the information in real time. That is the ideal combination. This is what I love about cognitive AI. This is where the future, the combination of human and machine. But Dr. Basil, you're right. There are certain situations, as I mentioned, in Mars, underwater, in extreme conditions, in disaster conditions, you know, whether it's a nuclear, have humans there. We need to rely on machines to make intelligent decisions on their own.
Okay, thank you, Mr. AJ. One question from Bara. I don't know if I should ask. Of course, you should ask. I don't know if I should ask, but just for know more about it. He is a therapist, and I want to know if we can use AI in assistive technology devices, and like how. Can I do by myself or someone else do it for me?
Can you, you were cutting in and out, Dr.
I'm sorry.
Please, maybe you can explain to me the question.
Well, هو بيشتغل as a therapist, okay, وبده يحط ال AI في ال assistive technology devices, like artificial limbs, something like that.
Yeah.
Can he do it or someone else can do it for him?
So another great question. So I didn't mention this, but Yuri just reminded me to do this. So people were asking, what's that future of AI? I talked about, cognitive. I talked about what quantum computing is going to do. We're experiencing a beautiful phenomena called 5G and 6G. It's really gonna make major changes. And the beauty about that now, if I have intelligence combined with 5G and future generations, I want to push the intelligence at the extreme edge. And this is where we're going to see some significant improvements, okay? I want to allow the device, cloud is important. I love the cloud. The cloud is going to be relevant, but there are certain applications where the latency is just not acceptable. So what you're going to see more and more, you're going to see a lot of companies, including us, Beyond Limits, pushing the intelligence at the extreme edge, at the device level. And if you are a device manufacturer, the good news is others can help you, can do it for you. There are a lot of companies basically can specialize in that. We actually right now see a phenomenal opportunity in basically pushing what we call extreme intelligence at the edge with IoT. We're going to see a significant, phenomenal growth with intelligent IoT. Dr. Yahya can understand this very well. There's a difference between automation and autonomy. Autonomy has intelligence in it, and that's where we're moving to.
عندي سؤالين من دكتور وائل القصاص. Thanks for this valued lecture. I want to ask a question relates to AI with Arabic language processing. How much is it matured? Then the second question, is there a lot of work in this field? Is it promising field from business point of view? He means AI.
So let me address the
first question.
السؤال الأول. AI is agnostic to the language. AI ما بتهمش اللغة. The لغة, it's not an AI challenge. The interface is. So really your question is, have we developed NLP systems and other systems to basically where now we can ingest, whether it's rules, data in Arabic and other languages? That capability with NLP is very mature. Absolutely, the answer is yes. But the AI system doesn't care. It ingests the data and adjusts the rules. We just have to work on what we call the interface, the NLP system. And NLP has matured significantly. It's a very mature capability.
All right. Mr. Mu'tazil Fayyad, is it possible for a person with limited intelligence to innovate in this field? And let me answer this one. Of course, Mr. Mu'tazil, there's no limits whether I can do this or not. I always go by this virtue. If anyone can do it, then I can do it. If no one do it, then I will do it. So اكيد مستر معتز، يعني هي دائما الانوفيشن هاي مش مقتصره على ليميت معين من الذكاء. هي انت شفت مشكله معين لقيت لها حل، هاي انوفيشن بحد ذاتها، يعني هاي انوفيشن. فما في داعي تقول والله انا لازم اكون دكتور عشان اعمل انوفيشن، او لازم اكون AI اكسبرت عشان اعمل انوفيشن. هو انوفيشن بحد ذاته مش مقتصر على ذكر او انثى، كبير او صغير، عالم او مش متعلم. Anyone can, if anyone can see a problem and he or she has a solution for that problem, that is called innovation. Let's take another question. Solution, ready for this one? Solution algorithms are not considered artificial intelligence because it follows specific rule steps to reach the solution. So when can this be as an AI? What is what differentiates AI from solution algorithms?
This is a subject that a lot of people basically there's a lot of conversations and arguments about what is true AI and what is not. Do you consider, for example, statistical analysis AI? Some people.
Sorry to interrupt. We don't want to go to flat earthers, for sure.
Yeah. But no. I actually happen to think that, it's wrong to call this machine intelligence. It's really not intelligence. It's statistical intelligence. So I understand the question, but this is a controversy. Everybody look at it subjectively. When we consider this, when is the level where you look at AI and which one is not? I happen to, just so I don't want anybody to be mad at me, I once gave a lecture and I talked about, that bottom of the pyramid as just statistical analysis. And there was a very, very smart and wise statistical scientist lady that got upset with me because she felt I didn't include her in the pyramids of machine intelligence. So right now I'm just encompassing everybody.
Another question from Mr. Aboud. Is there a general ethics that AI use? Like, how are we going to know that this decision is right?
You know what? I want to compliment you, Dr. Yahya, Dr. Qutayba. I mean, your طلابكم, they're asking awesome questions, great questions. Okay.
Thank you.
I really think this is an important issue, ethics. And I happen to believe, I sit on a committee, that we need to make sure that ethics and ethical behaviors are embedded in the algorithms we build. For the reasons I mentioned, sometimes we build an algorithm that has unintentional bias. I mentioned, the Bachelor of Beta with Bachelor Soda. This was not intentional. It's the bias. Ethics are important. And the early we get ethical procedures and policies and supervision would be important. Look, I'm not really asking, I want to be clear. I'm not asking that we need to regulate AI. All what I'm asking is I think it is important to basically include ethical policies as we build the algorithms, because quite frankly, there's some algorithms out there that scare me. There are some organizations that are using your data and this is unfair. It's unethical. As a consumer, I need to know how you're using my data. Knowledge is important. I think this is a great question. I'm a big believer, and actually you're going to see the US, you're going to see the European Union, they're going to push for regulations to say, focus on ethics in algorithms. I'm a big proponent of that.
Perfect. Question from Mr. Zaid. What do you think is the future for unsupervised learning? Do you think it will replace deep learning?
Just repeat the question again, Dr. Yahya.
Okay. What do you think is the future of unsupervised learning? Do you think it will replace deep learning?
Another good question. Unsupervised learning is very important, okay? We were able to solve problems with narrow AI. We were able to solve problems with supervised learning. But for us to get to that next level, we really need to start focusing on unsupervised learning, on reinforcement learning. These are kind of the advanced next phase. As we progress in that, that's going to be very important. So I'm a big believer. Yes, absolutely. Unsupervised is going to be very important. And it's okay as long as you have the explainability and audit trail. So I can understand what happened. I can understand if I have potential problem. But that's how we're going to get to the next level of AI. Absolutely.
All right. Diana is asking question, can AI create a practical new algorithms that works and operates with no human interacting?
It does it today. Today, we actually have AI systems that creates algorithms on their own. Now, they're not very
Okay.
sophisticated. They're not very sophisticated, but this is an area of concern to me. This is why it is important to have the explainability. I think we need to do it. I think it's important to do it, but I'm going to insist that I want to see explainability on our audit trail. But Diana, we have it today. Today, we have AI systems that create algorithms on their own. It exists today.
I have a question of my own.
Okay.
You mentioned back and did see that, or on a private meeting, you and I, that Beyond Limit is working on autonomous car that is driving from California to New York City. Is that project still on?
We have, as you know, we have a collaboration and research project with the Center for Autonomous Systems and Technology, which I'm on the board of that, okay? And we have set some really global challenges, okay? We love, for some reason, we love to solve unsolvable problems, okay? Just coming from the unmanned space program. Honestly, I mean, this is our mandate. Our mandate is, can you tackle problems that are not solved today? You know, that's why the CAS Center exists. So yes, one of the grand missions is we want to have an autonomous system that can go from Los Angeles to New York on its own. No supervision, no intervention from anyone. So it's a grand challenge. We're raising money for it, and we're excited about it. And there are other grand challenges we're tackling, by the way.
All right, perfect. Another question. In fight of this COVID-19 pandemic, did Beyond Limits have already to use package in hospitals worldwide? And what was the new development of Beyond Limits in this field?
So Beyond Limits was in the energy sector. During the COVID, we've decided to look at the healthcare sector. By the way, the technology is agnostic. You can use it in any capabilities. But one of the things we did, we wanted to contribute to the effort to fight COVID. We've actually created a dynamic COVID modeling predictions, because at the time, most of the modeling was static. They were not dynamic. And our Beyond Limits, we worked with a world-class institution here in the US. Unfortunately, I cannot mention the name, but our dynamic predictive models are now used in 50 hospitals in Florida with great success. And we told them we want to deploy it at no cost, because our goal was to really help the effort to fight COVID-19.
Nice. I got a question from Lana. How accurate of AI predictions in new software? I mean, how accurate it would be, their prediction?
Are we talking specifically COVID, or is this a general question? I just want to make
general question for AI. How accurate were their predictions?
So today, machine learnings and deep learnings are very, very accurate. Okay, I mean, and we've reached a level of maturity that they're really, really accurate. But remember, the more data you feed the system, the more accurate the results. The problem we run into is this is at a specific task level. If we want to go to a system of systems, and this is where Beyond Limits is involved, okay, it adds another degree of complexity, okay? And this is where now accuracy suffers somewhat. And this is why the cognitive approach is important, because now I want to infuse the data-driven models with human knowledge engineering to make sure to put guardrails to make sure that it stays with that level of accuracy. But from a narrow point of view, not a system of systems, they're very accurate, very accurate.
Dr. Yahya, Dr. Amjad, I'm very thankful for you, but I want to also mention something we have discussed in our intergovernmental meeting last week. They insist about having like some regulations for the ethics, human rights, and privacy, and the people and the sharing of knowledge, because they want to start a project of open science and sharing knowledge, and this is one of the important issues. My question, like for example, in AI companies, if you want to apply for a project, or somebody give you a project, do you have like to sign and like sometimes ethical statements or some kind of regulations monitored by the university, by the governments about research? Because we ask our students and researchers, for example, in Jordan, who work in biotechnology and genetic engineering, to sign when they work in the lab, or if somebody because this is very important issue. And as you mentioned, because of the importance of AI in the future, do you think it's not early to have some kind of a protocol and or even I think a constitution that regulate all these kind of researchers also?
I think it is. I can tell you my own experience. So at Beyond Limits, for example, as the CEO of Beyond Limits, I made clear that I don't want to be involved in creating destructive systems. I don't want to be in autonomous weapons. I don't want to be involved in experiments on animals or humans. Anything with a nervous system, we're not gonna get experiments. We're not gonna get involved with. So, but this is a decision we made on our own, that we just want to focus on helping humanity and the human race. Like for example, in energy, there are 2 billion people without electricity. Okay, there are 1 billion people without access to clean cooking. I want to help with that solution. I don't want to go add to the destruction of the planet. I don't want to add to the destruction. So, but this is something that we decided as a company, and I decided as CEO, I want to do things that would foster helping the human race, and I want to stay away from things that may be perceived as destructive to the environment or to the human race. And I'm happy to tell you that I'm beginning to see more awareness of that. I'm beginning to see that a lot of AI companies here in the US, I'm not aware of what's going on outside of the US, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's the same thing, are following the same kind of, philosophy, if you will.
Thank you.
Mr. AJ, listen, the questions are flooding. What's your time limit with this?
I'm happy.
I don't want to be exhausting you, but really, I have tons of questions right now.
Well, I'm happy. I mean, if there's some questions, happy to answer them. I may soon lose my voice. For some reason, I cannot control my passion when I talk. So I need to learn that.
I see that. Believe me, every time I see you, you give me goosebumps.
Thank you.
We feel energy. Really
good.
Energy.
Thank you, Professor.
Hi, I have a question from Dr. Tariq Smadi. Is there any programmed laws controlling the relationships between autonomous machines with AI and the human?
Yes. I think I mentioned, and what do you? So I mean, this is kind of like a contradictory, because autonomous, supposedly, it needs to basically function on its own. But where I see the collaboration is as we get into what I call the hive mind intelligence, the network intelligence. I see eventually having autonomous systems, connect with other autonomous systems, connect with humans to basically reach a level of intelligence, to reach a level of insight that is very important. So that's the direction we are pursuing, and that's where I see the growth in that area.
Nice. Quick question: will humans ever reach technology singularity?
So I started by saying, you know, Skynet is not here. Okay, we haven't reached artificial general intelligence. Let me answer it, and this is my own personal opinion. I think we are on track to get to that point. I really do. I think we will get to artificial general intelligence with one caveat: the human will be important element. It would not just be machine alone, but we will definitely get to that point.
I see. Are you planning to launch yes, can you hear me?
Dr. Yahya, you froze on us. So can you repeat the question, please?
The question is, are you planning to launch courses, programs for students in Jordan?
So we're not a university. We are a commercial company. What we do is we've created a Beyond Limits in the region. It's based in the UAE. And the reason it's based in the UAE because we actually have some active projects there. Our plan is to expand in the region. You know, because I'm biased toward Jordan. You know, ultimately, I want to have a technical office in Jordan to really look at the talent in Jordan and Egypt. You know, so we are planning to expand just simply because of the reason I mentioned. I mean, I think right now there is an opportunity. Yeah, طلاب في فرصة. Okay, we cannot run AI remotely. I cannot run projects from California. I need to depend on AI talent, data science talent, software engineers, AI experts, domain experts in the area. So Beyond Limits is investing in building that talent. But what I would like to see, to answer your question, you know, I came out of a collaborative environment between the public and the private sector, between university, the government, and the private sector. I really would like to see that in the region. That's how we can promote technology. That's how we can promote Riyadi entrepreneurship. It's going to take that level of engagement.
And I think Dr. Yahya, he want to mention Dr. Amjad that, you know, as a nice and a great company and a nice figure and a great figure like you, he is suggesting, I think, kind of social responsibility projects for open science and open learning for your company or other companies, like for spread of the education of AI. Do you think this is in the future is possible? Because sometimes, you know, it's many companies like or think about it in different way. But we suggest, like, if there is something in the future like this, it will be very helpful for the people and students in the region. So I think this is the point that Dr. Yahya like to mention.
And I agree with Dr. Yahya. So for example, I've created a committee on social responsibility at Beyond Limits. We actually have a team, a committee that basically look at social responsibility, because I'm a big believer. As a company, I have to be a good citizen in my community. I also happen to think I need to be a good citizen, not just in my own community, but in the global community. So for example, we are taking very active role in reaching out to the high school systems around. We're located in the greater Los Angeles area, in Pasadena, Glendale area. We work with the local high schools. We bring them as entrepreneurs. We give them seminars. We try to education on the importance of science. I'm very pleased from the questions we're getting from Dr. Yahya. I hear a lot of females, you know, engineers asking the question. That is tremendous. This is something that is important to us. Diversity. You know, we've talked about ethics, but another important thing is I strongly believe if you want to have an ethical, responsible AI algorithm, you need to have a diverse group of talent creating those algorithms. We need males, females, we need diversity of thought. We're active in our community. We start looking at expanding the program. So our internship program last year included 3 internships from Jordan, 3 students from Jordan. And I'm happy and proud to say 2 of them were females and 1 male, okay? This was done remotely, but it was a very, successful program. So, no, happy to support and work. I think social responsibility is very important.
Thank you.
A very technical question. I've seen a video of Tesla car crashed into a truck while driving into auto mode. Why do you think that happened? It has something to do with AI in the car?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm very familiar with the incident that the question is asking about. And this is exactly our point, where we cannot rely on just machine learning techniques and deep learning techniques. We need to combine that. If that Tesla had cognitive AI, that problem would not happen. So let me just explain to the users, to the students and the audience what happened. So a gentleman was driving a Tesla car. He engaged the autopilot. So the autopilot was driving the car. And the autopilot was purely working on machine learning techniques. And what I mean by that, it was just recognizing objects, and the car would change lanes based on the recognition of objects. So the car happened. I mean, it was a weird incident. It happened to be, it was really truly an anomaly. He was driving before sunset, okay, driving next to a white truck. I mean, talk about a very unfortunate situation. So the autonomous system in the car was saying a truck, and then when the sunlight hit the camera system for the autonomous car, it washed out the scene for the autonomous system, okay? And on top of that, the truck was white, So all of a sudden, the autonomous system was saying, truck, no truck. So the car was instructed to change lanes, and unfortunately and tragically, it crashed into that truck. Now, was the fault of the AI system, but that's because we had a very limited AI system. If we had a cognitive AI system, the AI portion, the symbolic AI, would have said, you know what, based on physics model, based on first principles, trucks don't disappear in a millisecond. It defies gravity. It doesn't make sense to me, okay? I've also noticed, I'm talking to the navigation system, and according to the navigation system, there were no exits. So it could not possibly that the truck exited. I think this is an anomaly. There is a problem. So I'd like to continue to look into it, but please do not change lanes until I clarify the anomaly. A cognitive system would have solved the problem. The answer to your question, an AI system failed. It was the AI system's problem. And in all fairness, it was an image recognition issue. And a cognitive system would have saved life. Unfortunately, tragically, that driver got killed.
Oh, wow. All right. I'm going to stop with this 2 more questions. I know that you're tired. I know we're taking a lot of your time, but just bear with us into those 2 questions.
Sure.
The first one is mine. We are AAPL are planning to put our first autonomous car in test drive, hopefully next year. I'm sure that Beyond Limit is working with similar projects. Do you have any recommendations, do's and don'ts in this field? Like what do's and don'ts that we should focus on before we launching this system?
So Dr. Yahya, I happen, this is my own opinion, to think that the autonomous driving for cars, for example, is a crowded field. So I've made a deliberate decision not to be involved in a autonomous for driving cars. But having said that, I am a big proponent. I'm a big fan of autonomous systems and technologies. You mentioned some of the challenges we're working with Caltech. I think you know, what I would like to see, and maybe my advice to you, is pick a specific area where it's not been addressed. Okay, I think autonomous cars is just, it's such a crowded field. If you can focus on, and there are many other areas in the autonomous sector where you really can differentiate yourself. MashaAllah, you know, you're doing great stuff, and where you can basically tackle challenges that have not been tackled before. Hopefully I addressed the question.
Yep, thank you. Last question. What's after cognitive AI?
One more time, please.
What is after cognitive AI?
What's after cognitive AI is strong AI, artificial general intelligence, and we're gonna get there. We are gonna get. It's gonna take us. It's not 2040. I think it's gonna be sooner than that. And I feel we're making progress to get to that level. God help us, but we're gonna get there.
Would you recommend any language software that students can learn and launch on their laptops and start crunching codes on that stuff?
So what I would recommend, you know, there are a lot of open software tools, algorithms, online courses, a lot of online courses, free you know, tools. Get yourself to work with them, educate yourself. If you're an engineer, that's the biggest thing you can do for your career, okay? If I'm gonna hire a software engineer, and I have a software engineer, and a software engineer who has little familiarity with, you know, with machine learning techniques, just a little bit of understanding of AI, that's gonna be the guy I'm gonna hire, or the lady I'm gonna hire, okay? So the best thing you can do for yourself to help your career, if you're an engineer, if you're a programmer, whatever the case might be, you know, there are a lot of wonderful online courses. Get yourself familiar with that. It's gonna help your career.
Well, thank you so much, AJ, for this wonderful.
You're welcome.
We're gonna conclude our questions. So forgive me, everyone, for not asking your question. I know tons of the questions are being loaded so far, but thank you so much, Mr. AJ, for this wonderful evening. We are truly happy and honored to have you with us. So big hugs from Amman all the way to Los Angeles to you.
شكرا كثير. Thank you, and Professor قطيبة. دكتور أمجد، يعني الكلمات لا تعبر عن يعني شعورنا. ممنونين لك. You are more than welcome in Jordan. We are waiting you. We want to host you at Just, and we want to host you at our also homes, and you are more than welcome. And we are highly appreciate your time. We thank you a lot. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.